She stepped into the music room clutching an old, scratched violin held together with duct tape and hope. Her name was Lila Reyes, just 14 years old. When the other students saw her, they laughed. The teacher barely masked her discomfort. "You can't audition with that," she said. But when Lila raised the bow and played, the room fell into stunned silence. It wasn't just beautiful, it was haunting. What no one knew was that Lila's violin had once belonged to a girl who vanished from that very school 20 years ago. And that song, the one Lila played, would unravel a mystery long buried in silence. This is a true story about music, memory, and murder, and it all begins in a small town with one broken violin. Before we go deeper, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We uncover the stories others won't tell. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's continue. Merritt Grove Middle School sat at the edge of Ashford County, New Jersey. Small, underfunded, forgotten. Lila Reyes was new. Her mother, a nurse, had recently transferred to a local clinic, and they moved into a modest apartment just a few blocks from the school. Quiet and observant, Lila rarely spoke unless spoken to. She spent most of her time fiddling with her violin, a family heirloom passed down from her grandmother. It was a battered instrument with faded wood and a barely functioning chin rest. But Lila played it every night, as if it were a Stradivarius. When her music teacher, Mr. Delaney, announced auditions for the Regional Youth Symphony, Lila signed up. Her classmates didn't take her seriously. "She's going to play with that thing? It looks like it belongs in a museum for junk." Lila didn't flinch, but that night she stayed up late, adjusting the strings and polishing the body with a soft cloth, careful around the cracked seams and weathered neck. Her mother peeked into her room, watching silently as Lila whispered something to the violin before setting it gently into its case. The next morning, the school was buzzing with chatter about the auditions. Posters for the event were slapped crookedly on the hallway walls. Lila walked past them unnoticed, just another quiet girl in a hoodie and worn jeans, clutching the rectangular case like it held something fragile, something sacred. The music room was already filled when she arrived. Students tuned their pristine instruments. Some were chatting, others showing off. Mr. Delaney scribbled notes at his desk without looking up. When Lila took out her violin, the room paused for a beat, then erupted into snickers. "That thing's falling apart," one kid whispered. "Is she serious?" another muttered. Even Mr. Delaney hesitated before clearing his throat. "All right, Reyes. Whenever you're ready." Lila said nothing. She positioned the violin under her chin, closed her eyes, and drew in a long breath. And then she played. The first note was low and trembling. Then came a flurry of aching, ghost-like tones that seemed to float in the air, clinging to the dusty rafters of the old room. No one laughed now. Lila played with a rawness that felt too old for her, like she was channeling something ancient, something sorrowful. Her fingers danced across the fingerboard, coaxing out a melody that was unfamiliar, yet eerily familiar. Even Mr. Delaney looked unsettled. He slowly rose from his chair, eyes fixed on her. When she reached the final note, the room stayed frozen. The silence was louder than any applause. Lila opened her eyes, and she was crying. So was Mr. Delaney. After class, as the others filed out in stunned silence, Mr. Delaney approached her. Where did you learn that piece?" Lila hesitated. "I didn't. I don't know where it came from. I just felt like the violin was telling me to play it." He looked down at the instrument, expression changing. "May I see it?" She nodded and handed it over. He turned it gently in his hands, and then paused. Inside the case, on the faded velvet lining, was a stitched name barely visible under the years of wear. Emma Halloway. His face went pale. "Where did you get this violin?" he asked sharply. Lila swallowed. "It was my grandmother's. She gave it to my mom. Then my mom gave it to me." "Emma Holloway," he whispered. "She was a student here, 20 years ago. Brilliant violinist. She disappeared the night before her audition. No one ever found her." That night, Lila couldn't sleep. The music still rang in her ears. She opened her sketchbook and began to draw, not knowing what she was drawing, only that her hand wouldn't stop. A girl, long hair, a bow mid-air, eyes looking over her shoulder in fear. Then she flipped to a blank page. Written in the same red ink that she'd never used before were the words, "I didn't leave. He locked the door." She dropped the pen. The violin, resting by her bed, gave a soft creak, as though shifting on its own. That night, the whispers began. At first, Lila thought they were dreams, soft voices echoing in the corners of her room, always just out of reach. But soon the boundaries between sleep and waking blurred. Every time she played the violin, the room around her changed. The walls flickered with shadowy figures, and she began to see things. Blood smeared on lockers, a girl running barefoot down the school hallway, a locked door at the end of a forgotten staircase. The violin wasn't just haunted, it was a vessel, and it wanted her to remember. Over the next few weeks, Lila is drawn deeper into Emma Holloway's mystery. With the help of a classmate named Mason, a conspiracy-loving loner who lost his sister to a similar disappearance, they begin an investigation that blends ghost hunting and truth-seeking. They discover an abandoned music wing behind a padlocked door in the school basement. Inside, old sheet music litters the ground. One piece stands out, the very melody Lila played, titled Elegy for the Forgotten. It's signed by Emma. An old journal belonging to the former janitor reveals chilling entries about a man in the walls, a shadow that roamed the school, especially near the music rooms. The entries abruptly stop the week Emma disappeared. Lila and Mason crawl through a maintenance tunnel behind the old auditorium. They find scratch marks on the walls, a broken locket, and Emma's final message etched into wood. He hears the song. He follows the sound. Each time Lila plays the cursed melody, she slips deeper into Emma's memories, reliving her last moments, seeing through her eyes. She realizes Emma wasn't taken by a man. She was taken by something older, a parasitic entity that lives off memory, sound, and fear. It once haunted the asylum built where the school now stands, and it feeds through music. Lila must perform the elegy one last time, not to summon the spirit, but to trap it. Emma's spirit, still bound to the violin, guides her through the final notes that Emma never got to play. In a climactic performance during the school concert, Lila plays the full piece, and the auditorium flickers with visions of the past, exposing the truth to everyone present. The entity shrieks, then vanishes, but the violin doesn't survive. It splits down the middle, and Emma's voice, soft, tearful, thanks Lila before fading into silence. Months later, Lila visits the school memorial where Emma's name is finally engraved. She no longer plays the violin, but sometimes, when the wind is just right, she hears a faint melody drifting down the halls, soft and haunting, like a memory trying to find its way home. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this. Your support helps us keep bringing these moments to light.